In the 1930s, the artist Salvador Dalí developed the paranoic-critical method of inquiry.
Paranoic-critical method is one spontaneous method of knowledge.
You take completely separate subjects, connect them arbitrarily together, and presto, new meanings spring up everywhere to fertilize the cultural landscape. In the 50s and 60s, this method was adopted by the situationists, whose frenetic collaging of images and bodies of knowledge and times and places and realities formed part of a revolutionary critique of capitalist society. In the present era, this method is still alive and kicking, but don't look to revolutionaries or artists to see it in action. Look to think tanks, leading architecture firms and cutting-edge consultancies. It has become the driving logic of new corporate culture. Me? Call me you. I'm an anthropologist, a corporate anthropologist. From my office in the basement of a large company, I unpick the fibre of our culture, its weft and warp, the situations it throws up, the beliefs that underpin and nourish it, and help clients introduce into the weave their own fine silken thread, a convoluted way of saying, sell their product. I take lonely dots and join them into dazzling constellations. We call it purveying insight, but I think of it as narrating. Even if it's true, it's still all fiction. But who gets to write this fiction? Bronisław Malinowski, the father of modern anthropology, said, "Write everything down." That was his first commandment. Capture everything the world throws at you. Turn it all into data. In a digital age, this edict becomes meaningless. Why? Because it is all written down already. Walk down any stretch of street and you're being filmed by 3 cameras at once. The phone you carry in your pocket logs your location at each given moment. Each website that you visit, every keystroke that you make, is documented, archived. Our kinship networks are being mapped by software. Where does this leave the anthropologist, the writer? The report, the tome, the book's already there, but who can read it? Still, I sit down in my basement, trying to piece it all together, trying to get a handle on the era, however partial. We see things shroudedly, as through a veil, an over-pixelated screen. I compile dossiers on South Pacific tower plunging rituals, on parachutists who've suffered equipment failure, on oil spills, unguent matters, endless metamorphoses as it creeps across the seabed, drapes itself over rocks and animals. When it stains snowy coastlines, I see ink polluting paper, words marring the whiteness of a page. Sometimes, when there's too much data shuttling through the company servers, the images all pause as the screen gives over to buffering. Behind the spinning circle, I picture hordes of bits and bytes and megabytes all beavering away to get the requisite data to me, and behind them, a giant Uber server housed in Finland or Nevada or Uzbekistan, stacks of memory banks and satellite dishes pumping it out non-stop. But what if it were just a circle spinning on my screen and nothing else? If it's a video file you're trying to watch and the red part of the line catches up with the grey part, then buffering sets in again. This is how time and memory work too. We need experience to stay ahead, if only by a nose, of our consciousness of experience, so that the latter can interpret, narrate the former. when the narrating cursor catches right up with the rendering one, we find ourselves jammed, stuck in limbo. Everything becomes buffering, and buffering becomes everything. This much, at least, about our age I've understood. I intend to start a dossier on buffering.